In this video, we are looking at tap soloing, particularly in the style of Eddie Van Halen. With the sad recent passing of Eddie, many people are looking into playing some of his songs again, so we thought we'd put together a tutorial in how to do tap soloing. So let's have a look. Tap soloing is a very iconic style of playing, particularly for players like Eddie Van Halen. The speed that it creates, it sounds incredibly complex, almost impossible to do, but surprisingly, it's not that hard to do. Something that we can all have a look at doing, and with enough practice, we can all pull off and play these incredibly fast licks, which sound very impressive, but aren't actually that difficult to do. So first of all, what is tap soloing? Well, as the name suggests, we're going to be tapping, and we do that with our right hand. Many people like to do this with the side of a plectrum, or their first or second fingers. Any fingers is fine for this, really. We're just making sure we're getting a clean connection, essentially doing hammer-ons and pull-offs, but with our right hand this time. If you are unsure what hammer-ons and pull-offs are, please check out our other video on hammer-ons and pull-offs first. I'll link it down below. And then once you've watched that, come back and check this one out and we'll do some more tapping. So the tapping, like I said, we're doing hammer-ons and pull-offs, but with our right hand. Now, when doing this, players like Eddie Van Halen particularly use arpeggios. Arpeggios are essentially the notes from the chord played separately, or broken chords they're often known as. So to do that, we will be using the C chord first of all. Now, the notes in the C chord would be C, E, and G. They're the notes that compromise or make up the C chord. So we're going to use those notes separately. Now this is the important thing, they do need to be on the same string, otherwise this won't work. And we're going to use the B string to do this. So if we find a C note first of all the way up here to C, 13th fret on the B string or second string. Then for an E, we're going to use the 5th fret of the same string. So bear in mind, we're going to use our first finger for this note. Then for the G note, which is the 8th fret of the B string, we're going to be using our third finger for that. So we've got our three notes, our C, our E, and our G. Okay, now we need to look at how we do this. Throughout this, we'll be keeping our first finger in place on the 5th fret, and our third finger will be hammering on to that G note on the 8th fret. Now that's what the left hand will be doing. Now the right hand, before we do those two notes, will be playing this C note on the 13th fret. We do that by tapping. This is what the tapping is, it actually is. We almost hammer on that first finger into the fret we want, and we keep it there nice and solidly so we hear that nice clean note ringing out. Again, exactly like you would do any other note, we're keeping it nice and close to the next fret wire so we hear a nice clean note. Once we've done that, we're then going to pull off essentially with our first finger. We do that by flicking down and out, and we hear our first finger ringing out now, our E note. So we have C, E, hammer on to G, and then we've got our three notes C, E, and G. Going back to Van Halen, he generally uses these in a triplet format, so he has those three notes ringing out, so that, in other words, the C is always on the main beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we get our tap solo. Obviously, when doing this, it's played a lot faster, but because of all these notes we've got going on and the hammer-ons and pull-offs, we don't actually need to play too fast. We can take it up to 160 or something beats per minute, and we get a really comfortable solo, but it sounds really fast. And there we get our tap soloing. So that's using the C major arpeggio. We can move that arpeggio to anyone though, as long as we're following our chord pattern or we're fitting in those notes with it, it sounds really effective. Now if we move it up, we could use a D minor arpeggio. So we'd be using the D note, the 15th fret of the B string. We'd be using an F note, which would be the 6th fret of the B string. And finally we'd need an A note, so we're going to use the 10th fret of the B string. Because it's a minor arpeggio now, there's a bit more of a stretch for our left hand, so I'm going to use the little finger for the A note instead of using my third finger. Again, that would sound like this. Now that's using triplets. Even if we only had those two shapes, if we bounce between them, it sounds really effective. I'll show you what I mean by that. We hear those two patterns back and forth that sound really effective. Again, it sounds extremely fast, but it's not as fast as we're actually moving our fingers because of moving the separate hands and separate fingers in such a way. Now that's using triplets to do that. We could even push this into sixteenths and add an extra note. Again, I'll use the same two shapes, the C major arpeggio and the D minor arpeggio. And to do this, we're still going to have our C, E, G, but this time we're going to pull off our G back to our E. So we'd have then we have our 16th version. So again, using the C major arpeggio and the D minor arpeggio, we get so there we have our tap soloing, just a very brief lesson on tap soloing there. And we don't even have to stay with the same three notes C, E, G throughout the whole time we're doing that particular pattern. We could even move it into a C dominant 7th arpeggio by adding the B flat note in. Then we'd have C, E, G, B flat. We might want to rearrange how we do that, maybe just doing C, G, B flat, C, G, B flat, and then we get the same kind of effect there. If you'd like to learn more about how to learn the guitar, please do check out our other videos. Make sure you hit subscribe and notify so you know when we do post more tutorials for you to learn the guitar. Also, you can get lessons online by checking out the links below, and we will be happy to go through some more personal, in-depth lessons with you. I'm Stephen from Murphy School of Music. Keep up the practice, and we'll see you soon.